The one and only multiverse presents a grand unified theory. Pulling, pushing gravity currents are carriers of the dark energy forces. Gravity, a pulling magnetic current with a dark energy force. Anti-gravity, a pushing magnetic current with a dark energy force. XCP dark energy. An expanding, exploding, contracting, compacting, and potential, magnetic spatial force. Density mass index, DMI, and centrifugal magnetic flow. Gravity currents in the dark matter sea. There are levels of gravity. It is not a constant. Web page and video are not AI generated. Your host, Richard E. Noer. Gravity, the creation and levels. The first level of gravity is caused by the energy difference between the proton and a dark matter sea. The difference is created by the evolution of magnetic torus string fields after a black star supernova, and the eventual looping with bonding of these fields, thus creating the proton. Because the energy level of the proton is now locked, as the universe cools and expands, the proton develops more and more gravitational potential. B. The second level of gravity is the proton-neutron compression that happens in a type 1 or 2 supernova. This compresses protons, neutrons, and their quantum fields, which in turn creates heavier elements with a stronger gravitational attraction, and a higher DMI. This means that all elements heavier than iron have a gravity level 2 magnetic attraction force in the dark matter sea. C. The third level of gravity occurs in a hyper-supernova that produces a dense neutron star, with a locked and closed superstructure. It has superior gravitational attraction of dark matter, but does not consume this material because the neutron superstructure is closed. D. The fourth and final stage of gravity is the explosion of an extreme immense star, thus producing a massive compacting particle wave. This compresses what's left of the dying star's core, thus creating a super-dense spinning sphere of universal dark matter particles only. E. What just happened was the creation of a black star. TM says, a black star cannot be called a black hole, because in the unified theory, matter cannot be created or destroyed. This is in direct conflict with the Standard Model. As you know, Einstein predicts that you can create matter. TM says that this idea is totally wrong at every level, and has no evidence to back it up. F. When a black star is created, its gravity in dark matter space can tear apart protons, neutrons, and electrons. Only dark matter particles survive. The perimeter particles of this dense star's body now has a fast rotation and extreme pulling force in a dark matter sea. G. This final stage of gravity has the ability to create super tiny dense torus chained particles, and a compressed fast spinning ring structure surrounding the black star, with ultimate pulling power. This in turn will tear apart all magnetic lock of approaching structures. The black star can now add these particles to its growing perimeter magnetic fields. This is the final stage of gravity. Gravity, the force. A pulling magnetic current with a dark energy force in polarized space. For years science has struggled with the physical force of gravity. What was missing was indeed missing. That's the existence of magnetism. In TM theory, not only is space filled with dark matter particles, it is filled with the power of magnetism. All the universal particles of a dark matter sea are individuals and are spinning. This is how they keep their shape. Because of this spin energy, each particle sphere has a north and south pole, with a one-way spatial magnetic flow. What? You guessed it, that is how polarized magnetism is created. Magnetism is a pulling, pushing, expanding, contracting, potential spatial force. XCP dark energy. Magnetism is not exclusively metallic. Atomic number and quantum field spacing determine magnetic properties. B. A flowing magnetic force is not just matter traveling through empty space, it is a magnetic flow, plus matter, streaming through a dark matter sea. It is the spinning spherical torus structures of the dark matter sea that produces a north and south pole, and space to spin in. This in turn establishes a one-way magnetic spatial flow through each tiny spinning particle axis. See, now for something important that people don't realize. This north-south flow is what pulls and pushes on adjacent particles and establishes the well-known gravity, anti-gravity currents. The strength of the force is subject to the amount of particle spin, which in turn increases magnetic pulling or pushing power. When these powers fluctuate, so does the density of the particle's magnetic space. This in turn increases or decreases the concentration of the current, thus increasing or decreasing its power. It is gravity currents with dark energy forces that creates strength. As you can see, the gravitational pulling-pushing force is a little complex, but not hard to understand after all. So the conclusion is, all the evidence points to space as a medium for light, sound, magnetic and gravitational forces, and not a vast expanse of nothing. An important thing to remember, magnetism is not exclusive to iron or metallic structures. This is because quantum field spacing and intervals determines metallic magnetism. Magnetism exists for all spinning bodies in the dark matter medium, whether or not they are metallic. The elevator. Gravity, anti-gravity, a pulling, pushing magnetic flow. Gravitational currents. Gravity is not quantized energy, but heat is. The dark matter sea has different densities and movement because of the influence of larger bodies such as planets, stars, and galaxies. Because planets and stars are composed of small dark matter particles that have a stronger magnetic attracting force, is what pulls on the bigger, cold dark matter particles of space. The larger particles of space speed up and get smaller the closer they get to these bodies. This, of course, pulls on other particles in space. Because the tiny spheres of matter and their polarized force are not in communal lock, the attraction sets up a cascading pulling streaming force of particles between denser and more energetic objects, gravity currents. Gravity currents of Earth are traveling through, in, and around the elevator, and also the currents have influence even if the elevator is stopped, going up, going down or falling. See, when the elevator accelerates upward towards your floor, first you feel more weight. This is because gravity currents have been combined with pushing anti-gravity currents caused by the moving elevator. Then for a moment when you stop, you feel the decaying anti-gravity pushing force. Anti-gravity is present when structural matter quickly changes its pulling gravitational direction. Encyclopedia 41.7. This is because of fluctuating dark matter currents flowing through you and the elevator. If in a falling elevator you were able to push up from the floor, you would crash into the ceiling because you and the elevator are weightless. A minimal pulling, pushing G-force, E. Now here's the tricky part. If in a falling elevator, the car was suddenly pushed to one side, you would definitely feel the effects of gravity and anti-gravity. One has a pulling force, the other a pushing force. Roller coaster, anyone? Rules: A. Gravity, anti-gravity flows in, through, and around structural matter, from 0 to thousands of miles an hour. B. Because the particles of dark matter are super small and uniform, most of the time you feel them as a gentle, pulling, pushing force. On the other hand, the force can get extreme when the structure is moving super fast. C. The amount of pulling, pushing force that dark matter has on a structure depends on the structure's transparency, its speed, and density of gravitational streams. If the structure is subjected only to a pulling gravitational force, anti-gravity will not be present. If the structure changes its speed in a gravitational force, it produces anti-gravity, which changes the structure's resistance to currents. This translates to how much the structure will weigh. D. Because gravity is a current, it would have a flow speed. E. Gravitational current speed would be close to, or the same as, escape velocity, Earth 11.2 km per second, 25,053 miles per hour, Moon 2.38 km per second, 5,324 miles per hour. F. Magnetic structural lock usually overrides the pull of gravitational currents, but not in the case of a black star's pulling force, or the high energy of fusion and fission. The fast-moving water represents the anti-gravity currents of dark matter. Think of structural matter as a screen or strainer-like configuration. The flow of universal particles is able to pass right through at high speed but with a steady resistant force. This is because of the structure's configuration. The resistance to the pull of gravity, and the push of anti-gravity currents, is what determines weight. Now, if you turn off the water, the strainer will fall with less force. The pull of gravity streams only. This illustration is called the effects of gravity, because the structure isn't producing any anti-gravity currents, but if you add the pushing force of the water, it simulates an additional anti-gravity pushing force. Now, if you move the strainer up and down, or side to side, that's a different story. The effects of gravity. Overriding the gravitational pulling force. You can stand on the Earth because of a quantum field magnetic structural lock. The dark matter currents of gravity produced by the Earth are traveling right through, in, and around your body at thousands of miles per hour. Bear in mind the super tiny particles of dark matter are much smaller than your atomic structure, and in a weaker codependency, therefore you would only notice a uniform, gentle pulling force on your body. You can stop the attraction because you and the Earth present a large quantum structural component in a stronger locked state. Therefore, the pulling force of gravity won't overcome the structure of you and Earth, but gravity still would present a pulling force. This is because your structure is different than Earth's, and quantum fields of both are not physically compatible, so, gravity continues on, but you don't. Scenario: if you are walking on the Earth and spot a bright juicy apple, then bent down to pick it up, you, the apple and Earth become a structure. You can retrieve it because the combined magnetic lock of you and Earth overcome the weaker dark matter currents of gravity. Now, if you let go of the apple, there is only the opposition of air, and the apple can overcome this weaker quantum configuration. The apple falls to the ground and the pulling dark matter currents of Earth's gravity wins the battle. This is because air is also subject to gravitational attraction but presents a weaker, more fluid structural lock to the falling apple. Gravity. Anti-gravity. XCP dark energy. 1. XP dark energy, not anti-gravity. 2. XCP dark energy, an exploding force. 3. All XCP dark energy forces are present along with gravity currents from space. Dark energy, Encyclopedia 14.1, 1. XP dark energy, the expansion of universal dark matter particles in magnetic space, caused by decreasing spin, magnetism and gravity. Getting colder, this is not a current, it's an expansion force, energy only. 2. The instant failure of atomic nuclei, or quantum field lock, causing a violent expansion, then a compression of adjacent particles, bodies, and space that has less potential energy. Bang! The expansion energy temporarily compacts space and particles of the area, which in turn produces more heat, light and magnetic force. XCP dark energy. As XP dark energy dissipates, so does anti-gravity, dark energy, and gravity. 3. Finally there is a star, with its compressed massive sphere of elements in a fusion state, that is slowing rotation. Fusion is occurring because of the dark energy pushing, potential force from the star's interior, on its hydrogen fusion band. This is controversial because some physicists claim that fusion occurs only in the core, and not the star's outer bands. TM says evidence does not support this concept. There must be mobility of protons, and the ability of outer quantum fields to oscillate, attract and repel. More about gravity, see the dark matter, anti-gravity, dark energy page. G is known as a pulling gravitational current, force, but dark matter can also push. This in turn is a different event, anti-gravity. So, a G force can be either pulling or pushing, both are similar but opposite and changes the magnetic flow of universal particles. When this happens, the XCP dark energy force is also affected. This means, the big G is not a constant, it is an ever-changing flow of a compressing, attracting, or pushing magnetic current, force. In the multiverse, there is only one thing that is a constant, it is the total amount of matter, but not the matter's configuration or its dark energy force. B. One more thing. Gravity always pulls on colder, weaker dark matter particles of space, thus creating a gravity current. On the other hand, anti-gravity pushes in the same medium of particles, thus creating a pushing current, but there can be variations. If there are intersecting anti-gravity, gravity streams in this space, they will interact. If both streams have a single source, like a spinning body or structure in this relative space, anti-gravity currents can change into the pulling force of gravity. Just like the torus fields of a bar magnet. Now for an oh my! Gravity currents can also change into anti-gravity currents. Like a neutron star with a polar jet. Acceleration, deceleration in a dark matter medium. Gravity, anti-gravity currents. Structures moving through dark matter space. The dark matter medium is composed of universal particles, and these tiny bodies are individually spinning. This creates a north and south pole with a one-way magnetic flow for each tiny particle. A magnetic effect. CW rotation produces CCW influence of neighboring particles, which in turn creates an ever so small attracting, repelling force between the two particles. That's right, because of the phenomena of polarized magnetism, and the pole and plane orientation of all these tiny dark matter particles, they never actually touch. They are all, ever so slightly separated by a magnetic force field. This phenomena is called polarized magnetic space. Magnetic space means that bodies of structural matter traveling through this medium would have for the most part, no friction. I say no friction, but it is not quite zero. The Pioneer spacecraft which are now traveling in interstellar space prove otherwise. The Pioneer anomaly. Galileo, a log and a feather in a dark matter gravity current only, will accelerate and travel at the same rate. Just like a log and a feather in a river current. TM says this is still controversial. What about a planet and a feather? It doesn't scale up. The multiverse has an answer, it's because space is not a void and bodies have different gravitational strengths and transparencies. Therefore, on a large scale, structures with more mass will accelerate slower than structures with less mass, but, when pulling magnetic currents and blocking magnetic currents are equal, they will accelerate and or travel at the same rate. Anti-gravity moving through structures in dark matter space. A. Blast off, acceleration. B. Speeding along in dark matter. C. The high energy of re-entry. There are many currents surrounding the structures, but for these illustrations, only one is depicted. This is for simplicity and clarity. A. Streaming dark matter from space, thus creating an anti-gravity flow, pushing anti-gravity currents in addition to pulling gravity. B. Equal pulling pushing dark matter from space, no anti-gravity flow. C. Anti-gravity pushing its way through the structure, thus slowing its course of travel. Acceleration, deceleration. When you accelerate a structure in a dark matter medium, you allow dark matter particles to push their way through its body, and everything in it, from front to back. Now, when the side of the spacecraft pushes through the dark matter particles of space, because of the vehicle's forward motion, it creates low-pressure eddy currents in the rear. As you accelerate faster, it forces more dark matter through the structure from front to back, along the sides and through the low-pressure field at the rear. The streaming currents through the structure is a g-force. When you accelerate less, the low-pressure eddy currents in the rear become more positive, with less transparency, thus blocking more of the dark matter streaming through the vehicle. B. When you stop accelerating, the dark matter streaming through the vehicle will also stop because the eddy currents in the rear now have equal pressure with the bow, and shuts off the flow. This forces all of the dark matter to pass around the structure and not through it. Now, when a structure decelerates in the dark matter medium because of force, or friction with the atmosphere, the opposite is true. This breaks down the blocking bow wave in front of the craft, creating low bow pressure, and higher pressure in the rear. Anti-gravity now flows back to front. As the craft slows, the bow pressure gets stronger and the rear pressure weakens. The g-force through the vehicle is less. When you stop decelerating, either you are stopped in the dark matter medium, and there are no currents flowing in around or through your structure, or, you are still traveling, but now have a strong bow wave, and equal pressure in the rear with no transparency for anti-gravity currents. The conclusion is a pushing force of streaming dark matter particles through a spacecraft, anti-gravity? Yes, this is because anti-gravity is a pushing dark matter magnetic flow. The movement of dark matter particles through a body creates a pushing force on its structure, and it would be hard to observe any real difference in the forces of gravity and anti-gravity, but, as you will see, the pushing current can't be called gravity. This is because gravity magnetic currents pulls on dark matter particles of space, and anti-gravity does the opposite. This unique pushing magnetic flow is sometimes called artificial gravity. One more important thing to understand about anti-gravity: if this streaming current is severe, it can tear apart magnetic bonds and cause an explosion in structures and bodies, just like gravity can. Gravity and evolution. Now for something interesting. Have you ever wondered why in the distant past, dinosaurs and prehistoric mammals were so large and seemed to defy gravity? Many scientists have concluded that some species of airborne creatures were too heavy to accomplish flight. TM has an unexpected and controversial answer. It is because Earth's gravity was much less in prehistoric times, and the atmosphere was more dense. This in turn led to an evolutionary process that allowed for larger but not heavier animals to take to the sky. Simply put, the flying creature's weight was much less because of weaker gravity, and a thicker atmosphere which produced more lift. 2. I can understand about the thicker atmosphere, but what about less gravity? The solution is simple. Earth since its creation has been adding matter and mass to its body because of the properties of gravitational currents. Every second, of every minute, of every day, for all of Earth's existence, dark matter particles along with other mass of the solar system and space have been consumed by Earth. This in turn, has increased its mass and gravity, which has increased Earth's ability to attract particles and matter exponentially. Therefore the gravity of Earth, as well as other celestial bodies, increases with the progression of time. At the extreme so does a black star. The universal particles that are added to the black star also enhance its mass and gravity, thus adding more and more particles, an increasing, expanding, gravitational force. Centrifugal force. Pushing dark matter currents. NASA, Wright-Patterson Air Base Centrifuge. Centrifugal force, anti-gravity, sometimes called artificial gravity. This phenomenon is explained a little bit different in the multiverse because of dark matter and dark energy. If Einstein, Newton, and Galileo knew about the relationship of dark matter, gravity, anti-gravity and dark energy, we would be far more advanced in our knowledge and understanding of the cosmos. If you have a tennis ball and attach a long string to it, you are potentially creating a structure. If you take up the slack in the line and pull on the ball in a circular motion, you are transferring movement energy to the ball. As the ball starts whirling around in a circular motion, you overcome the force of gravity which is trying to pull the ball down to the earth. Your arm and string are transferring motion energy to the ball. The ball in turn, is pushing through air molecules and more important, through dark matter. Because the ball is not traveling in a straight line and is tethered, it experiences an off-center direction of pushing anti-gravity, dark matter currents, flowing in, around, and through the ball. This pulls on the string. Does gravity have anything to do with this event? Yes and no. This is overwhelming centrifugal force, that moves a structure, that creates pushing anti-gravity. If you presented a strong pulling gravity field, the ball would be attracted to you without the string, but your mass has a weaker magnetic pulling force. So there is only a slight spatial attraction between. There is more gravity between Earth and the ball, but the centrifugal force of this experiment is much greater. So, it's the medium of air molecules, dark matter, and structural attachment of the string, and a pushing g-force, that causes the orbit of the ball, but not the Earth's gravity, although both gravities do interact. An in-depth description of this phenomena is found on the dark energy, dark matter page, or Encyclopedia 8.5. Einstein's gravity. Newton's gravity. Newton's gravity currents. The Sun. The red arrows represent gravity currents. Orbiting planets, moons and satellites, all follow the same gravitational laws. See the conclusion page for Einstein's general, special relativity and Newtonian gravity. If there is a huge massive body such as the Sun, it will produce extensive pulling dark matter gravity currents. The currents are capable of controlling the movement of planets, asteroids, comets, gas, and debris of all kinds. If you get closer to the Sun, the gravity currents will increase speed and force because they become more concentrated. Just like a river when it gets narrower. If you move further away, the gravity flow will get wider, thus decreasing speed and force. Again, just like a river. This is the direct result of embedded dark energy forces in the current. Satellites. When a satellite enters the orbit of a planet, the planet's dark matter ring fields, or on rare occasions, torus currents, will attract the smaller traveling body. The satellite is not falling toward the planet, it is being pulled from a straight line trajectory. In other words, the intruding visitor tries to continue in a direct line but cannot because of the gravity currents of the larger planet pulling it back, down. B. There is a small window where the planet's gravity currents, the forward energy of the satellite, and its changing off-center gravity pull, causes a centrifugal force. Anti-gravity. This prevents the satellite from flying off into space, but also prevents it from crashing into the planet. It has become tethered, or, if you will, locked in a gravitational equilibrium. See, if the satellite misses the planet's gravitational insertion window, it will not be captured in equilibrium. It will continue on with a boost in velocity, and a change in trajectory because of the encounter with the planet's superior, increased pulling, pushing gravitational currents. Finally, something very interesting. It is the prediction of TM, if the planet's pulling gravity currents were suddenly interrupted, the satellite would immediately fly off in a straight line, if there were no other gravity influences. Einstein's gravity does not support this theory, but Isaac Newton's gravity and the multiverse grand unified theory does. Density mass index, DMI. Why do you weigh less on a mountain top than you do at sea level? The answer is simple if you consider gravity is a pulling current, and anti-gravity is a pushing one. Because gravity is subject to the density mass index, is why there is more pull at sea level and less on a mountain top. There is no way that gravity travels exclusively in waves and distorts space-time. While up on a mountain top, gravity currents produced by the Earth are traveling right through your atomic structure at thousands of miles an hour. You are so used to the subtle pull on your body, you don't think much about this pulling spatial force. If you step on a scale at this elevation, let's say for the sake of argument, you weigh 150 pounds. Now you become aware of the gravity. Let's climb down the mountain to the ocean and continue this experiment. Down at sea level you decide to weigh yourself again. If you step on the scale, to your surprise you weigh 151 pounds. If nothing has changed like clothing, or any additional things to your body such as soil on your shoes, you must conclude that gravity has increased. If all things are equal, that is a correct outcome, your weight has definitely increased. Don't worry, you haven't added to your body mass, it is just that gravity is more concentrated and faster. This experiment has been done thousands of times and gravity does indeed increase its pull at sea level. Why is this happening? What is going on? TM theory, gravity is a current of spherical, tiny particles in the dark matter sea. They can travel right through atomic structures with almost no restriction, but not quite zero. This is gravity. On a mountaintop the dark matter particles are less dense and the attraction speed is increasing because of the pulling force of Earth, like a wide river current. When you get down to sea level the particles become more concentrated, compressed, and the speed is faster, just like a narrow channel in the river. This is because of a phenomena called the density mass index. See Encyclopedia 15. Density is the amount of matter a structure has. Mass is the amount of magnetic spatial force a structure contains. As previously theorized, universal particles from space traveling in a magnetic flow, travel right through your body, which in turn, pulls on your structure. These currents are subject to the same amount of dark energy in the stream. Density mass index. So, if the gravity currents at sea level are more condensed, it means they are smaller and more per area, thus creating a stronger pulling force. It is just that simple. Now, if you are standing on a scale you will notice this increase in gravitational speed and strength. Waves have nothing to do with this, it is all because of the increasing speed, density, and contraction of dark matter currents. Gravity cannot totally collapse space or run away with itself. TM Earth's polar magnetic flow. This physical phenomena can be scaled up for the solar systems and galaxies. TM, gravity, anti-gravity, equatorial and polar flow, now something unique in TM theory. In Earth's regional space, its gravity and anti-gravity is ever present. As Earth's magnetic currents stream through space, they run into other streams and particles that have a weaker magnetic force. As Earth spins, gravity and anti-gravity flow will have an effect on these regional particles and currents. Some will be captured by pole gravity, and some will be repelled by anti-gravity. The ones that are captured are caught in Earth's magnetic sphere. As the flow of dark matter in space progresses towards Earth, pole gravity gets stronger and so does magnetic compression. Now, when they reach the planet, they travel right through the atmosphere and mantle, right through to the inner core. This is where Earth's spinning axis has its own rotating energy. So now, gravity runs into more spinning, axis energy. This enhances the gravitational flow from pole to pole, and creates a huge spinning compressed central area. What happens now? You guessed it. The new magnetic energy has to go somewhere, so, it is the spinning axis that guides this new compressed energetic pushing force through the mantle, through the atmosphere, and out into space. Just like a garden hose spraying water. What? Oh boy! Does this really happen? Yes, and it's because gravity, anti-gravity, and its magnetic spatial force can be enhanced, then can change a pulling force into a pushing force, while grabbing new particles and their magnetism along the way. The new, exiting spinning more powerful magnetic flow, has become polar anti-gravity. This is a brand new concept, but guess what? It fits precisely with all we know. One more thing, I hate to harp on this, but, the gravity-anti-gravity concept will not work in empty space. Sorry empty spacers. See Encyclopedia 12. TM, last but not least. It is the proton that is responsible for the first stage of gravitational attraction and cessation. The exact spin and potential magnetic energy of the proton was set in its evolution time after a black star supernova. This means that gravitational attraction cannot, and will not, run away with itself. There is a limit to this pulling magnetic spin energy. On the other hand, gravitational attraction can resume if there is a secondary, mini-exploding, compression event because of a magnetic lock failure. This would compress protons, neutrons, and quantum fields with more active and potential energy. It is exactly what happens in a Type 1 or 2 supernova. It infuses protons and neutrons with more spin, pulling and compressed energy. It also forces more protons and neutrons of atomic nuclei together, thus creating heavier elements. This takes the attraction force of gravity up to a new level. Level 2. See, we are not done yet. If a huge star uses up all of its fusible material and its expanding dark energy force, this in turn can lead to a very large explosion. This is because of the ripping force of gravity from space. It tears apart the magnetic lock of perimeter elements of the star. The creation of a neutron star produces another level of gravity. Level 3. It is theorized at this level, a neutron star can't consume any dark matter particles from space, because the neutron star is a closed system, so, structures and bodies from space may be torn apart, but, the dark matter particles are not consumed, they are flung right back out as they approach the star. This new level of gravitational attraction also has a stopping point. Neutron gravity is not strong enough to create a black star. At this point in theory there is a well-known sequence on how black stars are created. A mammoth exploding pressure wave of stellar matter, along with the severe ripping currents of anti-gravity, tears and compresses an extreme star core so much, neutrons and other structural matter don't survive. Only universal dark matter particles with superior spin and density now exist. This is the last step of gravity. It can now resume and create the ultimate attraction force of the universe. Level 4 Gravity. Unlike the neutron star, a black one consumes dark matter particles from space. This in turn creates an exponential increase in the size of the star, and steadily decreases parts of the universe, multiverse, cosmos. Black star gravity is not black hole gravity. This is because black stars of the cosmos is what creates the inward-outward polar jets that telescopes have observed in the dark matter sea. Black holes could never do this. Sorry John and Stephen. Your host. Richard E. Noer. Young me. Mini me. Email, noerastronomy@gmail.com. Here in a multiverse. Our goal is to find the cosmic truth. No matter where, or, how far it takes you. The universe truly does unify. If you get the basics right,